The last video did amazing, so
Kendrick! Drop another diss track, and my life is yours!
So a part 2 was inevitable. If you haven't seen part 1, I highly suggest you watch that first, but for a quick summary, it's about a boy named IA getting kidnapped and sent to the Cradle, a human meat and breeding facility to satisfy a society of insect monsters. IA plans to escape with his best friend Kazu, but two other boys named Natsume and Yamabiki want to eliminate all the bug monsters. After diving into the first 3 volumes, it's time to wrap things up by exploring the final 4. Will this series maintain its quality, or will the ending undo everything that we've enjoyed so far?
But if you guys want to see more anime content like this one, then why not go down and hit that subscribe button.
But without further ado, let's get on with the video. At Kiryu's lab, IA, Kazu, and Agura are restrained, designed to become experiments for the Halcyon group. IA confronts Kiryu, insisting they've never harmed anyone, but Kiryu counters by mentioning Natsune's murder of a master. Kiryu reveals that they're not mere creatures but gods who arrived on Earth on spaceships. He claims that the masters possess scientific knowledge far beyond human comprehension, and they're the only hopes against the worsening global warming crisis. IA challenges Kiryu, urging him to fight back with him, but Kiryu dismisses him and focuses on creating a new figure using their body parts. As Kiryu prepares for surgery, Ogura tries to swallow a poison pill given him by Yamabiki, but an experiment intercepts it and hands it to Kiryu, who destroys it. Just when all seems lost, the experiments suddenly cheer for IA and the others, encouraging them to hang on and it'll all be over soon. Kiryu puts IA to sleep, but when he wakes up, Natsume is holding a knife to his head, releasing them from their restraints. It turns out the pill was a radio transmitter, allowing Yamabiki and Natsume to intervene in time. Kiryu, enraged, orders his experiments to kill Natsume and the others, but Natsume fights back, slashing them with his own rib. During the chaos, Yamabiki examines one of the experiments. The men who were experimented on were just normal humans, but their genes weren't altered in any way, but just sewed together. But this kind of unrefined work seems so familiar to him. After taking a good look at him, he finally remembers Professor Kiryu, his father-in-law. We flash back to the Tokyo Academy of Science, where Yamabiki joins Kiryu's genetic lab, seeing it as an opportunity to advance his own research. Kiryu, obsessed with winning a Nobel Prize, ignores his daughter's pleas to take a break and instead fixates on gaining recognition. When Yamabiki emails him with groundbreaking discoveries, Kiryu tries to have him explain, but Yamabiki just tells him to claim them as his own, quickly rising his reputation in the science field. One day, Kiryu catches Yamabiki in the lab with another researcher. Ready to discipline him, Kiryu stops when Yamabiki offers him even more discoveries. Yamabiki soon becomes the lab's golden goose, fueling its success with his brilliance. Kiryu's daughter, visiting the lab to deliver her father's phone, encounters Yamabiki shirtless. She's immediately infatuated, and when Yamabiki catches her fantasizing, he seduces her. Knowing his plan is falling into place, Kiryu smiles as they continue their affair and eventually marry, solidifying Yamabiki's position in the family and the lab. After a long trip abroad, Kiryu returns to find his team distracted by something strange. When he demands to know what's going on, the staff show him no respect. Kiryu pushes people aside and is horrified to see a grotesque creature, a giant worm with one eyeball, created by Yamabiki. The creature, a chimera named Chichan, is a blend of starfish, sea slug, and human genetics, representing a new breed of human. Kiryu lashes out, warning Yamabiki that he's the world's mind of the century and that if anyone discovers this, he'll be ruined. He orders the creature's destruction, but the team refuses, not seeing the harm in Yamabiki doing his own experiment. That night, Kiryu sneaks into the lab to kill Chichan. As he attempts to end its life, the creature cries out, begging for mercy. Despite his pleas though, Kiryu kills Chichan only to return the next day and finds the entire lab mourning. Yamabiki calms the distraught team, and Kiryu realizes that he must eliminate Yamabiki as well. Kiryu devises a plan, getting Yamabiki drunk with expensive alcohol before dragging him into the radiation room. making it appear as though Yamabiki accidentally killed himself. A month later, Kiryu checks the radiation room, expecting to find Yamabiki's corpse, but instead, he finds Yamabiki alive. However, his cells are torn and scattered, so he decides to inject himself with DNA from other organisms. Even more horrifying, Kiryu's daughter has also undergone the experiment, emerging as a creature resembling an Ai monkey, while Yamabiki gains gecko traits. Overwhelmed by the horror, Kiryu flees, eventually losing everything: his job, his home, and his fame. Homeless and desperate, he is eventually kidnapped by doctors and taken to the cradle, where he meets Izumi, the director. This marks the beginning of his work at the facility and the creation of the Halcyon group. In the present, Kiryu stabs Yamabiki, but Yamabiki, now nearly invincible due to his self-experimentation, is unharmed. Kiryu, overwhelmed, yells at his experiments to do something about them, but his mouth is bitten off by the invisible man. Natsun grabs his body and throws it to the rest of the experiments as they begin to rip him apart. While all this happens, Izumi is in his office watching the whole thing happen. The experiments ignore the group and try to leave the facility. The group's bickering is suddenly interrupted by a violent rumble, and the power cuts out, plunging everything into darkness. Over the loudspeakers, Izumi makes a rare announcement. There's a fire in Block A and all workers must evacuate immediately. But then with a chilling calm, he requests a private meeting with Saori Yamazaki, Natsune's mother. Ogura leads the group to the director's office. The moment Natsune opens the door, Izumi greets him with a shotgun blast to the face. He doesn't stop there, unloading 2 more shots into Natsune's eyes and then slicing off his head with cold precision. Shocked, Izumi's assistant demands to know why he would bring a gun into the facility and what would the masters think about this. But Izumi, unfazed, assures him that they no longer need to worry about the masters. Izumi expresses a twisted sympathy for Natsune, calling him the real victim in all of this. He reveals that the fire emergency was a ruse, triggered by his own electromagnetic pulse to trap the insect monsters within the facility. When IA lashes out, throwing punches at Izumi, he's swiftly restrained, though Izumi remains unfazed, explaining that starving the monsters to death was the plan all along. The assistant is horrified, finding it unimaginable that they would even dare to kill a master. But Izumi reveals that this plan has been in the works for years. Izumi recounts his childhood as how he and his father, the former director of the Cradle, were brought to the facility after falling into homelessness. He needed medical treatment, and once he was well, his father lied to him, claiming that they worked at a mannequin factory. 10 years later, as a teenager, Izumi, trying to pass his high school exams, began to sense the lies. One night, his father handed him an envelope filled with money and instructions to flee the facility, urging him to leave that very night. His father's pleas was ignored as Izumi's curiosity led him to explore the dark, twisted secrets of the facility. In the breeding blocks, Izumi encounters Sasori Yamazaki, Natsune's mother, and the first woman he has seen since his own mother. Driven by lust and curiosity, he was easily manipulated into opening up her cell. The moment he did, she escaped, triggering alarms. Later in his room, his father confronted him, but they were interrupted by an urgent call to the auditorium. The masters knew about the escape and demanded 300 sacrifices. Every staff member got a number and 300 numbers were called, including Izumi's. When his father went to pour him a drink, he asked to see Izumi's number. He then tells Izumi that his number wasn't called. It was actually his number. Izumi breaks down, asking for the truth of the facility, but his father ignores him and takes his place in the slaughter. Izumi then watches in horror as his father walks to his death, vowing to himself to kill all of the masters. With this vow, Izumi became the new director, setting his plans into motion. In the present, as they monitor the facility, they watch as the bug monsters turn on each other, devouring their own. The queen, struggling with her malfunctioning system due to the EMP blast, is overwhelmed and consumed by her own kind. Izumi then reveals the truth. The bug monsters arrived on spaceships, hiding their vessels underwater while extracting a gas which has been accelerating the global warming. The bug monsters demanded for them to feed us or they'll make the planet uninhabitable. As the queen meets her demise, Izumi and his assistant are left in tears. Just as Izumi begins to express his gratitude to the assistant, his words are cut short as the assistant suddenly stabs him, ending the volume with a shocking betrayal. The highlights of these 2 volumes were the 2 flashbacks. Izumi's backstory was one of my favorites of the entire series except for Kiryu's. They managed to make a side character more interesting than some of the main characters. Kiryu was an okay character, but his backstory made him into a menacing villain with an interesting motive. His ego and craving for attention was the reason for his demise from the very beginning, and it's the same reason why he died at the end as well. It's a parallel to his old life. He wanted his old team to do whatever he demanded, so he made a new team that would, and when his new team wouldn't listen to him, it caused his downfall. This flashback also manages to give backstory to Yamabiki, which was well deserved and a bit weird, but we also knew Yamabiki was a little bit weird himself. His genetic superpower was never really hinted at before, but the fact that he was a genius plus interested in anatomy was hinted at ever since the first couple of chapters. The ending to volume 5 was amazing, a good callback to the global warming problem, explaining the connections with the bug monsters and their background, the twist of Izumi being like a good guy just doing bad things, and of course the cliffhanger betrayal of the assistant. It was hinted at in the last chapter, but my guess the reason he did it was because he's afraid of what the monsters would do to him if they found out. And as for how they'll end the series, it could go really many ways, like the main characters eliminating all of the monsters, or even the monsters destroying the entire world. But I don't know, we'll just have to keep on reading. But before we get to the next part, I just want to say that we now have a Discord server. So if you guys want to talk about your favorite series, get recommendations, and just connect with some like-minded fans of mine, then this is the server for you. We'll soon be hosting live community events like games, live reactions, and live readings only on the Discord server. So if you want to be involved in this, then why not scroll down and join our community? But back to the video. The director Izumi is viciously stabbed by his assistant. With each thrust of the knife, Izumi's lifeless body crumbles to the ground. The assistant, trembling and deranged, mutters about voices in his head commanding him to kill Izumi over and over again. He reaches for a button on the control panel, but Yamabiki intercepts him, knowing that pressing it would unleash the bug monsters into the facility. Suddenly, the assistant begins hearing the voices again. He violently shakes and lands a brutal punch on Yamabiki, twisting his head a full 180. As the assistant screams in rage, Ogura notices that one of the queen's tentacles has lashed onto him, using him as a vessel to communicate. As Ia tries to revive Yamabiki, the queen approaches Natsune's corpse. She says it's all over. She only wanted peace. She explains how she did everything to protect the humans, even creating the regenerator, only to be betrayed. In a final act of defiance, she rushes to the panel and presses the button, releasing the bug monsters from their confines. The bugs are celebrating, but while they're very happy, they're also very hungry. Meanwhile, outside the facility, a bird watcher sees something massive with wings. As a severed leg drops before him, he realizes it's a bug monster soaring through the air. Hundreds of thousands of these creatures are flying towards Tokyo, where they begin to devour everything in sight. The scene shifts to Japan, where the Prime Minister receives news of the destruction sweeping through the nation. The United States, under President Donald Trump, suggests using every available resource to strike back, warning that if Japan can't handle it, the US will step in, at the risk of exterminating them in the process. As the Japanese military is deployed, one soldier realizes that the monsters are multiplying. Back in the facility, the queen weeps for her babies as Ia strikes her over the head with a chair. Ia, in a fit of rage, lets everything out on him, but Ogura clarifies that the queen is speaking through him. The queen laments that she believed in peaceful coexistence with humanity, needing them as a food source to survive. Their mission was to protect humans and develop regenerators, but everything changed when her offsprings regressed. Despite their intelligence, their insatiable appetite led to the destruction of their home planet, forcing them to flee to Earth. To prevent the same fate here, she suppressed their reproduction, but now they've regressed to their original state, and it's only a matter of time till they strip everything off of this planet. IA demands to know how it all came to this, prompting the Queen to recount an outlandish story. Long ago on a distant planet, life flourished, and evolution fostered a highly intelligent species. However, their intelligence brought with an unsatiable hunger, leading them to consume everything, including each other. Desperate, they launched a mission to find a new home, eventually discovering Earth. Their original plan was to guide the evolution of chimpanzees, creating a new, dominant species, humans. But as they evolved humanity, they also had to adapt, developing exoskeletons and a monogamous mating system. Everything seemed perfect until humans turned on them, sealing the bugs and their own extinction. As this revelation unfolds, the bug monsters are shown wreaking havoc worldwide, from the United States to China to even Russia. Suddenly, Yamabiki, who had been motionless, springs back to life, interrupting the conversation. He explains that someone should be in this conversation and reveals a human face growing from his spine. Natsume. Shocked, the others listen as Yamabiki explains that he had implanted some of Natsune's tissues into his own body, allowing Natsune to regenerate. The Queen panics, realizing that the regenerator is their only hope of avoiding extinction. Natsune moves to attack her, but Yamabiki holds him back, proposing a plan that would subject Natsume to eternal suffering but also ensure the complete annihilation of the monsters. After discussing it privately, Natsume agrees. Yamabiki begins the gruesome process by licking Natsune's ear and biting it off, swallowing it. He continues to consume small bits of Natsune's body until multiple faces appear on Yamabiki's back. Natsune heads towards the Queen's lair. The moment she sees him, she stabs him repeatedly and devours him, but an army of Natsune clones flood the room. Earlier, Yamabiki had been spawning baby versions of Natsune who rapidly grow into adults. All life is fundamentally fluid, isn't that right, Mother? A flashback reveals Yamabiki's traumatic childhood of his father leaving him, while his mother says that men are only good for procreation. As she says this, she takes off her shirt and forces Yamabiki to do the same. Yamabiki calls out to his mother and explodes with babies crawling out of his lower body. As more Natsune clones enter the room, the Queen takes over one of them and calls out to all of the bug monsters worldwide. They stop their attack and head straight towards the cradle. The monsters can't survive off of Natsune's clones, so they begin to devour each other in a desperate frenzy. Ogura makes the decision to trap them all in the facility with Natsune. However, IA bickers and fights over it. IA is torn but eventually complies after seeing Natsune mouth to him the words, "Close the door, see you later, friend," and smiles. IA, Ogura, and Kazu leave the facility behind with miles of bug corpses scattered in their wake. IA, sickened by the sight, declares that he's going back to save Natsune. He collapses, haunted by the memory of Natsune's sacrifice, hearing his voice begging and pleading in his head. Kazu, trying to pull him back to reality, tells him forget it. It's over. Let's go home. 3 years later, IA has moved in with Kazu. They both gave up on school, instead taking jobs to support themselves. IA works for a cleanup company dealing with the remnants of the destruction in Tokyo. Ogura has become a famous writer, revealing the truth about the cradle and the bug monsters. During work, IA feels a deep gratitude for Natsune's sacrifice, but he's plagued by PTSD from the endless cycle of death Natsune endured. One day, IA leaves Kazu a note, apologizing and telling him not to come look for him. He spends days digging a hole to the cradle, collapsing one rainy night from exhaustion. As he fades in and out of consciousness, he sees Natsune, who helps him to his feet and reassures him that he succeeded in killing all of the monsters. In a dark room, Natsune explains that his clones developed a form of mad cow disease, which spread to the monsters, turning their brains into sponge. Standing on top of a tower of dead bugs, Yamabiki, alive and well, watches over the scene. IA suggests that they return home, but Yamabiki declines, eager to explore the world. Natsune jokes that his mother told him not to play with strangers, but IA, worn down by their separation, is desperate for connection. Natsune places a comforting hand on Ai's chest, reciting a simple magic spell his mother taught him. Pain, pain, go away. Ai then wakes up to find Kazu beside him, relieved to have found him. Unsure if it was all just a dream, Ai looks down and sees a message. See you later, Ai. The series concludes with Ai and Kazu quietly taking the bus back home, leaving the horrors of the past behind them. Now, I know a lot of people don't really like this ending, but I thought it was pretty good. Not the best, but not horrible either. I love the scene of the bug monsters escaping and causing chaos to the entire world. It also basically explained the problem of them being easily killed in Volume 2. I also like the backstory to the bug monsters. What I don't like is the fact that they were literally the reasons humans were made. You remove that and it wouldn't really change the story at all, so why even have that in the first place? Plus, we already knew about the regenerator plan, but it's kinda crazy to think that it was the monsters that made the plan instead of the actual humans. The death of Yamabiki didn't feel real at first, so when it's revealed he actually did die, the impact felt a bit weak. He didn't get a full backstory, but from the little glimpses that we can get, we can understand how he became the way he is through his abusive and manipulative household, so at least we get a little bit more backstory to him, but we still don't even know how he got into the cradle in the first place. Did he also get kidnapped? Did he go there on purpose? We don't really know. But the ending itself was really good. I would have been happy if in the time skip, IE just honors Natsune for his sacrifice and just ended it at that, but we see him giving up everything to save his friend, and while it was obviously a dream he was having at the bench, it still hinted at Natsune having a happy life and IA and Kazu living a peaceful life. I never expected Starving Anonymous to be as good and as disturbing as it was. The series as a whole dives into a dystopian nightmare where government corruption and environmental negligence converge with a twisted and gory story. A dark and intricate tale that delves deep into the human nature, desperation, and the horrifying lengths to which both humans and monsters will go to for survival. The series masterfully builds tension and delivers shocking twists that keep the reader engaged, while also exploring complex themes like global warming, genetic mutation, and the consequences of unchecked ambition. The backstories of characters like Izumi and Kiryu adds layers to the narrative, making them more than just villains but tragic figures driven by their obsessions and trauma. The main characters Yamabiki and Natsune are definitely the backbone of this series. While IA, Kazu, and Agora aren't as interesting, they still have their moments to shine and grow as characters. The monsters themselves are horrifying to look at, and their actions and backstory just keeps us wanting more. The final volumes escalate the horror to a global scale, culminating in a chaotic yet fitting conclusion that, while diverse, ties together the series' central themes of sacrifice and survival. Though the ending leaves some questions unanswered and introduces elements that feel slightly out of place, it ultimately provides a satisfying closure to the harrowing journey of IA, Natsune, and the other survivors. Starving Anonymous is a story that challenges its readers to confront the darkness within humanity and the monstrous potential that lies in our quest for power and survival. But thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember to join the Discord server by clicking the link in the description below. If you guys want me to review the sequel series to Starving Anonymous, Starving Anonymous Re, then let's hit 2,000 likes on this video. And if you like horror, anime, and manga videos, then why not hit that subscribe button. But may God bless you guys, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.